Grand opening, grand closing.
Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers, your only friend these YouTube streets. Puerto77 back at you with another video. Hope you guys are enjoying your weekend, and I'm glad you're here. All right, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, like, share. All right, hook a brother up. All right. But anyway, so made this comment here. This is in line with what's going on. A lot of damage control over 30 FPS, but then you have Xbox fans that are actually being real with what's going on. Well, no, of course, this is me here throwing shots of I wrote on Twitter, me seeing all the Xbox accounts that hyped Xbox Series X as the world's most powerful console and thrashed the PS5 as the PS4 Pro. If you guys remember that nonsense, they used to say PS4 is RDNA 1.5, 9.2 T flops. Xbox Series X has a better CPU, so it'll outperform it. All this crazy nonsense. Anyway, thrashed the PS5 as the PS4 Pro, only to end up damage controlling Xbox first-party games locked at 30 FPS. It's absolutely satisfying. It's absolutely so satisfying. You know, just seeing the abysmal failure that the Xbox Series X has become in terms of almost everything. Everything that was, every lie, every bullshit, every propaganda, every narrative had just been destroyed. There is nothing that came out true from Xbox this gen. It was just absolute lies, and it just caught up, you know. As you scroll down and you see here, the new damage control is, can you show me a PlayStation game running in UE5? You know, they're literally asking questions you could put on Google that has like a whole list of UE5 games, right? And look at this guy, laughing my ass off. Show a PS5 exclusive that's 4K 60 that looks like Hellblade 2. Just one. Like, bro, number one, you shouldn't be talking, because like you literally have Starfield as your avatar, and like that game, like, bro, that game doesn't even run at 60 frames on the Xbox Series X console, and that's not a UE5 game, right? That's number one. Number two, that game runs at 60 frames on a damn handheld. So I don't even know why you even bothered to mention. But again, these guys are asking questions on games that you go on Google and whatever, right? But here's the real reality, right? I don't want to hear about this whole UE5 bullshit, okay? That's not my problem, because when I look at Horizon Forbidden West, right? And it's a cross-gen game, and it's one of the best looking games this gen, and it runs at 60 frames because it has performance mode. It has those enhanced performance mode. The game is absolutely gorgeous, and it renders an entire world. So no excuses. That's how you set the standard, right? But it's absolutely hilarious. Now look at this. All right. Oh man, my man Clobrio's getting killed, right? This is just an example of what we're trying to say of Xbox, you know, enthusiast content creators try to shame platforms that are locked at 30 FPS. And it was primarily, you know, because of PlayStation 5, or they assumed. But Clobrio, I won't play 30 FPS games in 2020 plus, period. You know what I'm saying? But I will say this, all right? I'm not doing it either, right? Not because I'm a snob or anything like that. Like, for example, Dragon Dogma 2, I'm not buying it. Until they add a performance mode, I'm not touching it. If I do touch it, it'll probably be on PC or whatever. But on console, I'm not touching it. Now, here's my reasoning why I'm not touching locked 30 FPS. You got to provide a performance mode. And the main reason for me is because of the $70 price hike. The whole point of the $70 price hike, or any price hike in games, is because you're expected to do more and they have to cover the cost, right? Makes sense. So to me, the standard for this gen is performance mode. All games should have a performance mode unless it natively does 60 frames right from the get-go. If it does 60 frames right at the get-go, then all right, okay, you don't have to have a performance mode. You don't really have to go for 100 frames, 120 frames. Okay, that's a nice to have, but got it. But the console should be running at 60 frames, even if it needs a performance mode to do it. That's the minimum. They decided to raise the price to $70. That's just how I see it for myself, right? All right. But now a lot of people are waking up, right? Now we got past. We'll start with little bro right here, right? He's going through it right now, right? But he's keeping it real. He's keeping it honest. You can't argue with honesty. There's going to be a lot of Xbox fanboys who are just concubines, and they will slave, even with Microsoft embarrassing them, not delivering their promises, completely abandoning them, right? They're still not going to listen. But He's actually the real ones, and there's a few other people that are real ones, and he's just being honest. Let's listen to what he has to say.
What is the point of the Xbox Series X this generation?
Good question.
Were the ponies correct when they said the best thing about the Xbox Series X was old games?
Yep.
Playing old games. You don't buy a next-gen console to play old games. On the Xbox, you do. Were they actually right when they said that?
Absolutely.
I was trying to think off the top of my head out of all the games that Microsoft has released that on the console.
Don't miss Marvel Animation's X-Men 97.
Get this done by working.
My man threw a commercial up in.
He makes the Xbox Series X worthy of the extra $200 that it costs over the Xbox Series S. See, that's what this comes down to. The biggest fools this generation are people that bought an Xbox Series X. And yes, that includes me, so don't be offended. If the shoe fits, wear it. The shoe.
And bro, I warned you. I warned you, bro. I warned you. You know what I'm saying? You know, I absolutely hate that you're going through this. I told you this is going to be crazy, man. Microsoft has been dog shit since 2013. And all throughout 2013 and 2020, 7 years of dog shit with no true attempt of getting better. There's no way. It just blows my mind how gamers actually thought Microsoft was going to do something this gen. You can't go through 7 years of shit, being trash, being dog shit, and thinking a snap of a finger, everything's going to be okay. Just because you started gen over. It doesn't work that way, man. It's like PlayStation 3. PlayStation, and with the PlayStation 3, Sony, PlayStation 3 is a perfect example. PlayStation 3 launched bad. We all seen it, $600. You know, no killer apps for like years and stuff. Yo, it was crazy, right? Terrible network, all that stuff. But you saw signs of Sony getting better, PlayStation getting better during that gen. You saw them going back to what they were. They dropped the price. You start seeing first-party exclusives. You start seeing great, amazing games. And they finished the gen off with The Last of Us. You saw the trend and the improvement. There was no improvement whatsoever during the Xbox One gen. In fact, they just made stupid mistakes that they repeated, and it blew my mind.
Shoe definitely fits me. I was a fool for buying an Xbox Series X because Microsoft makes me look like a fool for having an Xbox Series X. What tangible benefit do I really have over someone that has an Xbox Series S? You tell me.
I mean, the truth is, Xbox Series X was a waste of a console. Now, I get it. If you're a pure console gamer, which, you know, it happens, right? You don't want to spend the money on PC, then yes, Xbox Series X is irrelevant, right? But you can't go out there bragging about it. You have to know you got something simply because you didn't want to spend a lot, but it's not going to be all that. It's not going to be this amazing piece of hardware and piece of tech and do amazing things and push gaming forward. It's not going to do that. You simply bought it because it's a cheaper option, better or preferred. I ain't gonna say better, but preferred environment as compared to the PC environment. You know, you still want to stick with consoles, right? So you're willing to deal with this mediocrity of a product because you don't want to deal with PC gaming, the cost, and all that other stuff. And that's perfectly fine. But if you bought the Xbox Series X thinking it was going to push gaming forward, oh my God. Bro, like, stop. You paid for mediocrity simply because you wanted to avoid PC, right? For the cost, you know, simplicity, and that's perfectly understandable. But you should have recognized it is a mediocre product.
To the point that some games weren't even going to come out because they wouldn't even run on the S, even though I had the more powerful hardware. I know you remember that video. When I was like, no, if you bought an Xbox Series S, I don't care about you. If Baldur's Gate doesn't come out for your platform, whatever. Let it come out for ours. I'm telling you right now, some people purchased the Xbox Series X because it had 1 terabyte of storage versus the 512 that the Xbox Series S has. But now Xbox Series S has a 1 terabyte storage as well. Why would you purchase an Xbox Series X over an Xbox Series S? You tell me. Better performance? Wrong. It's a lie. It's BS. You could count maybe in one hand how many games have better performances. Maybe in one hand. Unless you're...
And what he means by that is 60 frames over 30. Rarely do you see the Xbox Series X version 60 frames and the Xbox Series S version 30 frames. Rarely do you see that. Usually they're tied together. There's a few games. I remember seeing a few games where like Xbox Series X version had performance mode and stuff like that, and the Series S didn't, right? And I think that's from third party. But I think from first party, Microsoft first party, I don't think they attempted to do that. I don't think they attempted to say, hey, if you're on the Series S, you know, it's locked 30, but if you're on the Series X, you'll have performance mode and you can play the game at 60. First party has not done that at all. So if the game's stuck at 30 on the Series S, you could pretty much say that it's going to be locked at 30 on the Series X, all because Microsoft is not going to put the extra effort.
You're comparing them side by side, you ain't even going to be able to tell the difference between the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X in games. In Microsoft games. Other games you can, but games that aren't even made by Microsoft, maybe you can tell the difference. But in actual Microsoft games, it's like they made sure everything ran on the Series S and then just threw it up on the Series X. And that's what makes...
You know, that's very plausible. The lead platform for Xbox as Xbox developers could be the Series S, the baseline. And then it's almost as if the Series X is the Pro, like that actual, and Microsoft mentioned it. They said that, you know, that the Series X is the Pro, you know, the mid-gen refresh. They just decided to launch early. It could be literally treated. Now, for those of you that don't understand, this is what I mean by that, okay? And I'll use the PlayStation 5 and the upcoming PlayStation 5 Pro as an example. No game will be built specifically for the PlayStation 5 Pro. All games will be built for the PlayStation 5. Okay, you will not get PlayStation 5 Pro exclusives. For those of you that even talked about that, it blows my mind why you even have the conversation, because it's not a new generation, it's not a next generation console, nothing. They're not gonna make games and cut out the PlayStation 5 audience to build an exclusive game for the Pro. Those of you who are thinking and having those conversations, you might, I don't know, like, your education might be flawed. You might want to go to a new school or something, because you're missing so much, okay? The PlayStation 5 Pro is nothing more than a better version of PlayStation 5. All games will be built to the spec of the 5, and then you just run it better and all that stuff on the Pro. The Xbox Series platform could be going through the same thing, where all games that, from the first party perspective, it built to the spec of the S and then bumped up to the Series X, which is a problem, because that means you guys on the Series X, and it would make sense on why the Series S is so way off on a lot of things. That could be it, because no game is actually being built to the spec of the Series X. It's the Series S, and then you just spruce up the graphics and all that stuff, which would be absolutely tough. That's why that two console strategy was just stupid. You know, don't ever do that.
Makes the Xbox Series X owners look like fools. There's no real point for the power. None of it. Hellblade is going to come out at 30 frames per second.
And I'm going to stop right there, okay? I'm not going to play the rest of the video to respect out of his content. If you want to see the rest of the video and you haven't, I will put it on the link. You need to watch the rest of this, okay? Just a little taste. He's raw, being honest. Go watch his video, and you know, don't worry, the link will be there. Next thing I want to talk about is Thor and the Xbox 2 podcast, and once again, they're being honest. All right, this time in particular, with Ninja Theory using the reason or their excuse or their reasoning of Hellblade 2 is 30 FPS because they wanted, for their vision, they wanted the gamers to play the game in a cinematic, you know, to have that cinematic feeling. That's how they saw their game, and that's how they want you, the gamer, to experience it. There's only one problem. Thor covers it beautifully.
Like, hey, make the game that you want to make. the cinematic vision. But if it's like truly your cinematic, if it's truly your creative vision that the game be 30,
Listen,
how come it's not locked to 30 on PC? Does like PC not suddenly follow your creative vision anymore? Because on PC, if you have the PC to run it, it's going to be 60 and everything. So is the PC version of Hellblade 2 not the version of the game that you had intended when you built it?
now, here's what's crazy part, right? So the game is going to be on Xbox Series consoles and PC. Of the two platforms, the majority of gamers are on PC because Xbox Series consoles have not sold well, okay? So this game, the majority of gamers that have access to this game are the PC gamers. That's the majority. They make up the majority. Steam has like 120 million monthly active users every single month. So it's at least 120 million users. And then the guys sparingly, they blow past, way past the 21 million on Xbox, right? Ninja Theory made a game where they said that their creative vision and they want gamers to experience their games at 30 FPS because it's cinematic, yet the majority of gamers have the ability to play this game at 60. Only the niche crowd that are the Xbox console gamers are the ones forced to play this game at Ninja Theory's creative vision. The niche. The majority are not. So the majority will not play this game at Ninja Theory's creative vision. So you see how silly their reason is, or their excuse is? It's absolutely insane. It makes no sense at all.
Because if you were building it as a cinematic experience at a lower frame rate, then clearly the PC version wouldn't be the PC version wouldn't be the version you were thinking of. Like, imagine if this was being made only for PC. They wouldn't come out and say it's their creative vision because the game's going to be at 60 frames. So there's a part of me that wonders if there's a bit of double speak in here, where this is more of saying it's a creative decision.
It's not double speak. It was just a stupid reasoning because they don't really have anything else to say. The only thing they can say is just be honest. Like, for whatever reason, the Series X, the compilers, the tools, whatever, they couldn't get their game to run at 60 FPS. They just can't, without drastic cuts or whatever. Or they could have said, hey, we tried to get it to run at 60 FPS performance mode, but it was just way too, the degradation of the game was just way too much. So we couldn't get this game to be on 60 frames on this console, and then just leave it at that, but they're not going to say that because that's a very negative comment, and they're just going to make up something. Now, normally that excuse, you would be able to get away with that excuse last gen because PlayStation used it. I'm not going to lie. Let's not all cap here. We've seen this excuse before, but the difference is we never seen the games go day and date on PC at 60 frames. You understand? So I think they try to use an old tactic and not realize, hey, buddy, you do know this is going on PC. And then this game, they're going to try to run it on the Asus ROG. And if the Asus ROG Ally, once again, runs this game at 60 frames, it doesn't work. You have to change up, the excuses or the logic reason. And even when they did it last gen for the cinematic experience, no, we know the hardware wasn't strong enough. I mean, we all knew day one when the consoles launched, PS4 and Xbox One was not strong boxes. They were, at best, 1080p 30 frame per second machines. We all knew that from the get-go. That was just no lie. 1080p 60 consistently, yeah, that wasn't going to happen. We all knew that, right? But this gen, it's about the performance mode. To me, this gen should have established minimum performance mode. And I think most developers are. Most games are. So these are some of the few outliers and stuff like that.
Because they couldn't get it to run at 60 on the consoles, so it's an easy excuse, quote unquote, to be like, oh well, no, we wanted it to be cinematic, so that's why it's only 30 FPS and we don't have performance mode. But then you go to PC and it's 60 FPS, and it's like, well, wait a minute, on the other platform you're launching it on, it's not a cinematic experience because it's running at 60 frames and you're not capping it.
Yeah, I'm not.
So
I'm not
is it-
happy about some of the excuses, you know.
So
And I think some of this is probably on Microsoft's fault rather than the dev, where they don't want to admit that it's, it's a technical constraint or whatever. I think like the I at the end of the day, the best option is that there's options. Let people pick and choose. Develop your game in such a way that you can turn off certain features in order to get more frames if that's what people really, really want. But sometimes I think like you just can't develop games like that. I mean, I thought it was interesting because like you talked about Final Fantasy VII Remake, right, Rand?
mhm.
And about how you were playing it. So I ended up getting FOMO and I reinstalled it. I
Okay.
reinstalled Final Fantasy VII Remake. And it's the first time I've run it on my 4080. Like the last time I played Final Fantasy VII Remake was on a 2070, my old laptop, and it did struggle on my on my old laptop, you know. So I was just kind of like, yeah, I want to see how hard I can push the graphics here. So I opened up the graphics settings and I was like kind of surprised how few options there are. You can't really tweak that much of Final Fantasy VII Remake's graphics on Steam, on the Steam version. There's not a lot of options there to play with. Like some games like Gears of War, for example, like Gears Tactics especially. Gears Tactics was an absolute showcase for graphical options
Alright.
in a PC game.
Where we going
It was
with this?
like, to this day,
Like,
I
man.
think Gears Tactics, like there's been no
Where
other
you going,
game,
bro?
maybe
Like, man,
Gears
he
5
just
itself.
left the beaten
Like,
track.
I just really remember Gears Tactics lets you change everything about the graphics with like all these kind of sliders,
What
and
are
it
we
even had
talking
like
about here?
a little picture which showed.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Big wire.
Like, what are we doing here? Like, what is he talking about? Why is he talking about graphical? Like, holy cow, that's a leap.
That your sliding around would have on the game. Like every single aspect of Gears Tactics you could modify to your
Okay, who gives a
to your heart's content. But Final Fantasy VII didn't have that stuff.
okay?
And I can't help but feel like it's because the game was just not designed from the ground up for that. I think like Final Fantasy VII Remake, at least on my PC, if I can remember correctly, it was like you could either have it at 30 frames or 60 frames. There's no options for going to 90 or 120. There's no option for unlocked frame rate. There's no option for all sorts of stuff. I'm not even sure if VSync was available as an option off the top of my head. It's a bad example, right? But I'm sure surely VSync was there. I don't know, but yeah, there wasn't a lot of options. Is my point. And I think it has a lot to do with the way the game's been ported, the way the game's been developed from the ground up, and maybe it's just like it is what it is at the end of the day.
I don't know, man. Sometimes you ain't gotta make excuses up. Like one, if you're talking about Final Fantasy, right, on PC, one is port of the PlayStation version, right, over to PC. Number two is a third-party developer. And number three, there's a difference between not a lot of options versus no options. We're talking absolute zero from your own first party. Right? And we're talking about a game that was announced back in 2019. They literally had 5 years. They were purchased by Microsoft before the series came out. So they probably knew how it was being developed. They were probably purchased and then got, spun up on all the things this console's doing. And they got 5 years to launch it. First party, 5 years. There before even the generation began. And you're comparing this to Final Fantasy Remake because they didn't have a lot of options on PC. Well, at least they had some options on PC. And they're third party, right? So maybe porting the game, maybe they have trouble doing ports, right? But you comparing that to Xbox first party who had 5 years to this game, all on their own, and they were there at least at a certain portion of the development hardware of creating the series platform. So they had information before anybody else, or right along with the rest of the first party studios. Man, that's some, I don't know, that's a little bit of reach right there for that one. I mean, at the end of the day, this is the reality, and we'll just leave it at this. All right. Microsoft started the gen providing games at 30 FPS. Flight Simulator was locked 30 FPS, no option for performance mode. Then when they launched Redfall, they launched it at 30 FPS, and it's a multiplayer shooter. Like, you don't release shooters that's multiplayer at 30 FPS, but they clearly did, right? And then they launched Starfield at 30 FPS. That's 3 games, back to, 3 games, right? At that point, Microsoft is very comfortable providing the Xbox console game with locked 30 frames with no performance mode, right? And while Microsoft is doing that, I expect PlayStation to not only deliver performance mode for games they can't run at 60 frames, at graphics mode or whatever. Not only do I expect performance mode, but I expect the advanced performance options that PlayStation first party has been primarily the only ones to provide in console gaming. And that's with the high frame rate and VRR combined. They do this special frame rate modes where you can get more frame rates in your games. Certain modes even unlock the frames where now you can play the game unlock frames at 1800p, dynamically scaled up to 4K. And, and the games were great. All the games that have these advanced performance mode options, oh my God, playing them in quality mode, unlocked with high performance, performance options, amazing experience. Best way to play on consoles, right? That's my expectation. So while Xbox gamers are accepting, mediocrity, no options other than to play at 30 frames, I expect Sony to deliver advanced performance options. And that just clearly shows which is the best console hardware to be released this gen. Let me know what you think. This is your only friend, these YouTube streets, Puerto77. Hit up the comment section. Again, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Tune in for more content. Tune into my podcast, 60 Frames No Lag podcast, every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys take care. Peace.
Grand opening, grand closing.